The age-old question. What is the difference between prayer and meditation? Is there one? Who better to field this question than a man with a glass of whiskey in his hand? So, in order to really sink my teeth into this argument, I've prepared a bit of a presentation. I hope you enjoy it as much as I enjoy this fine Canadian whiskey. In order to properly discuss the difference between prayer and meditation, let's really define them first. I'll start with meditation. The Merriam-Webster Dictionary defines meditation as a discourse intended to express its author's reflections or to guide others in contemplation. So I guess this boils down to the process of deep thought and attempting to fully understand written word, especially things like poems, allegorical fiction, or, hey, even religious text. But let's put that thought on hold for a minute, because if you scroll down on the Merriam-Webster Dictionary website under the definition of meditation, you can see some pretty funny Facebook comments debating about the more spiritual aspects of meditation itself. There's some pretty thoughtless ones, but one of the comments down there actually struck a chord with me. There's a quote of what Carl Jung had to say about meditation. It claimed that meditation is cultivating the willingness to sit with an attitude of openness, holding whatever arises in your gaze free of attachment or rejection, allowing it to come and go in its own time. So essentially, this is the concept of liberating the mind from extraneous thought, and probably has some roots in the religious views on meditation. Let's hold on to both the reflective understanding definition and this more abstract one, since meditation, obviously, is very much up to interpretation. Moving on to prayer, we find that the definition, again according to Merriam-Webster, is pretty straightforward. A. 1. An address as a petition to God or a God in word or thought. 2. A set of order of words used in praying. And B. An earnest request or wish. Going by this alone, I really do feel like I have a solid case in the distinction between prayer and meditation. But because I'm not an 8-year-old looking up words in the dictionary to bend an argument to my will, I'll compound on this definition a bit. Prayer, because of its nature, requires a receiver, a sort of target that the prayer is directed to and believed to be heard by. This could be the god or gods of any religion, or something more corporeal, like a king or political leader, an animal, or a natural being, or just a box of Captain Crunch cereal. As stated in Part B of the definition of prayer, you could potentially just be requesting or wishing something in prayer, but there needs to be a beneficiary of that wish. If not, then what's the point of wishing in the first place? Let's say that you tossed a coin into a well and made a wish that happened to come true. What caused it to come true, you might ask? Was it God? Was it a mob boss who sits at the bottom of a well and collects coins in exchange for fulfilling wishes? Or was it the well itself? There's really no way to be sure, because basically a random scenario just happened to come out in your favor. Jumping to the conclusion that a well granted your wish for you to win the lottery is exactly the same thing as attributing your financial windfall to a heavenly being. But I digress. It could be very well argued that there isn't a single person who prays without hoping that that prayer is heard by something or someone, be it Yahweh, Johnny Depp, or good old Captain Crunch. Cereal mascots aside, prayer can and must be directed at something. So what might cause a person to pray? According to a study by US News and BeliefNet.com, if they're to be believed, the top 3 things that Christians in the United States pray for are God's guidance, giving thanks, and health and safety. I think what this boils down to is the natural human feeling of discontent. When a person feels uncertain or doubtful about what to do with their lives, they can certainly be tempted to pray for guidance. When they feel like they don't deserve what they have without God, they pray to thank Him. And finally, when a person they know is sick or dead, they pray for the recovery or repose of that individual. Praying to thank a god is pretty much a deist philosophy, but I can certainly see someone meditating to attain spiritual guidance or for their own health, be it mental or physical. So it is very much possible that the human feeling of discontent can prompt both of these actions, prayer or meditation. So to really show the difference, let's take something realistic that can cause discontentment in an individual, the death of a grandparent. I've been through this myself, so I'd like to think that I can talk about it from both an objective viewpoint and a personal one. Let's say that when my grandma died, I prayed to the Christian God for guidance. What happened to my grandma, and what should I do now that she's dead? According to Christian teachings, one of two things can happen when a person dies. If my prayer for guidance was answered, God would tell me straight up that because my grandmother believed in Jesus Christ and accepted him as her personal savior, he was ready to call her home to heaven, and that I shouldn't worry because she is in a better place. I should exalt God and Jesus for his decision. Or, alternatively, God would say to me that because she did not accept Jesus Christ into her life, she is now in hell, suffering eternally, and I should alter my sinful life to avoid the same fate. Of course, because we can never explicitly hear from God telling us exactly what happens when people die, these prayers and their answers come exclusively from study and belief of Christian doctrine. Pray for guidance, though ultimately your life is affected by the beliefs of the religion that follows the deity that you pray to. These conclusions you will reach through prayer are built into your faith and the God it created. They are blind, faith-driven beliefs that belie rationality and proves that prayer only provides, at best, a small comfort. And even then, there's no way to prove that life after death really exists. So prayer has only to offer a false comfort, and of course, a heaping helping of guilt triggered by your religion. But what about meditation? The Jung definition of meditation states that once you open your mind to anything, you cannot attach or reject anything that fills it afterwards. Certainly this is a good way to calm yourself after the death of a loved one, but it provides no real answers about death that can be latched onto or proven. After all, when you clear all unnecessary thought from your mind, anything that comes afterwards originates from the raw human psyche. People who claim to have seen the beyond through meditation have really only seen what is inside themselves. This is why so many different concepts of the afterlife can be drawn, because of how powerful and inventive the human mind is. However, the first definition of meditation, which we looked at, really does beg for discourse. Concepts such as the afterlife and how to deal with grief will always be up for debate because there's no single author of the human race and no one way to cope with these things. There's a concept about reaching honest conclusions that I really like, and if it's not credited to anyone already, I'm coining this phrase. It's called rational introspection. Only by rationally processing all the information and evidence that we've taken in as humans can we draw realistic conclusions about death and how to deal with it. The answers we may find might not be pretty, but they will always have more gravity than those found through prayer and meditation. Facing these sobering truths alone will only make us stronger and much more articulate about touchy subjects such as death. So there you have it. Prayer, meditation. It doesn't really matter if at the end of the day you're not taking your own actions and applying your own mind to what you've gone through. Learn, discuss, rationalize, and believe in only what you yourself have experienced. And if the conclusion you find does involve God, good for you. You found a way out of thinking. Sobering truths alone will make us stronger and more articulate. I can't say articulate.